I said to my best friend the other day, like, sometimes I just wish, David would like take control of things. And she was like, no, you don't. I was like, rude. She's like, you want to be in charge, Colleen. You've always wanted to be in charge. I was like, yeah, but I would like to be a little bit less in charge of some things. And she was like, do you? I was like,
I'd like to be
okay.
in charge of making him in charge of like 3 things.
Yeah, like I would like to be in charge. Yeah, exactly. I would like to be in charge of making him in charge of these things that I don't have to think about, but I also want him to report back to me on them
And I'd
regularly.
like him to do them exactly how I would like them done, please. Hi, I'm Cheryl Medeiros.
And I'm Colleen Hungerford. And this is We're Doing This Right, right? Podcast for the whole woman, mind, body, soul, and business.
It's humor infused, as real as it gets, inspiring, and you'll walk away with real usable tools for life and business.
If you love what you're hearing, please share with a friend, subscribe so you'll never miss an episode, and rate and review whenever you listen.
So find your earbuds, lace up your walking shoes, or cozy up with a beverage of your choice. It's time to dig in. Hey, everybody. We're doing this right?
I love this new voice you're doing in the beginning. This like sultry voice you're doing. I think
Yes, welcome.
we're doing it right, but also sometimes Cheryl, you want to tell us about what happened? Maybe sometimes you
Yeah,
feel
let
like
me
you're
tell you
doing it
guys how I
wrong.
did it really wrong. Hi, I'm Cheryl. I'm the mom of 3 children. I should be a pro by now. However, I missed constipation in my youngest child. I took her to the doctor, took her for an x-ray, and somehow did not know that my child was constipated for a week. How? Shouldn't I know that? Shouldn't that be like the
No,
easy one?
I don't think so. I don't think you're ever a pro when it comes to being a parent. I've said this many times. Maybe I've never said this to you, but like each kid is so different. There are some things that cross over, but like you just never know. And every day you wake up, you're parenting your kid for the first time because every single day they're different. And it's just like crazy. It's
Yeah,
insane. And no, none of
yeah.
the kids are the same, which is bullshit, to be honest. Like, why aren't they just more,
Fair.
unfair? Why aren't they more
It's
similar?
unfair.
But I'm
Yeah.
glad that's all it was, though.
Yeah. So, for anyone who didn't listen, or maybe I didn't elaborate as on the podcast as much as I did to just Colleen and Susie. Everybody knows Susie, friend of
Yeah.
the pod. I was a hot freaking mess last week because we just were not sleeping. It was a Saturday to a Thursday of no sleep because it was literally hours and hours and hours every night of June screaming and writhing in pain in bed because her tummy hurt. And we're
Mm.
like, what the hell? At first, I thought I poisoned her, like overdosed her on magnesium because I'd started giving her magnesium because she was having like the leg pains. And I thought, oh, growing pains, magnesium.
Yeah,
Okay,
that
this
seems
is going
right.
to, yeah, I thought, oh, woo woo, let's go. I'm going to be a good mom
The
here. And then I was
magnesium
like,
should have helped her poop, though, too, right?
no, I know this was all really interesting. And now hindsight, probably the magnesium was not related at all to this. So
Okay.
we're reintroducing half dose of magnesium back into her world.
Hmm.
Also because she's a crackhead at bedtime, ladies and gentlemen, and I
Mm.
need her to go to bed a little easier for her sisters because they're all in one room. So we're giving her half gummy of the magnesium to start.
Hmm.
Just make my life just so I don't worry. But anyhow, yeah, she went on for a whole week of just hours and hours and hours every night of just crying and crying and crying that her tummy hurt. And it was so hard to see her in pain and exhausting to be up for hours on end like that and then be still needing to function. And then we had some very traumatic news in our family with the sudden loss of one of our beloved uncles on Alex's side,
Mm.
much too young to die. I'm traveling to the Midwest this week, and now I'll miss the service here for our uncle. It was just like this,
Oh my God,
like
so
one thing
much.
after another, and exhausted. We were just exhausted. So we finally took June to the doctor when I was like at a breaking point, and ended up taking her in for X-rays to like not really get a firm diagnosis that she was constipated, but an assumption on the doctor's point that she was constipated. And I'm
Yeah.
like, ooh. And I was like, they wanted me to like go all in on laxatives for her, which I didn't feel comfortable with since the x-ray didn't show like a ton of backed up stool. Sorry, everybody. Hope you're not drinking your morning coffee or eating your breakfast while we do this.
It's fine.
And so I really didn't believe them, but we did the laxatives and she has been going to the bathroom since and she's been sleeping since. So
Amazing.
I think they were right. Maybe there was just something in there that was not moving
Yeah.
and now it's moved. So we're sleeping again.
Well, and
And
like I remember my sister when she had my nephew Zephyr, like, and she was a single mom for a lot of all the whole time basically. And she was like, sleep deprivation is literally a form of like military torture. So like this is insane that we're expecting people, moms, parents to like function at high levels while being, like while parenting. So
mhm.
it's so, and
Well, and
everything's
Alex
so
and I did this
intense.
very wrong because we do not like divide and conquer. We suffer together. And then we both end up just really overtired.
Yeah.
And that is so stupid. It is so stupid. We've done this our entire parenting journey. We have never divided and conquered. I
Oh,
don't know
yeah.
why. We don't even think about it until we're like over the hump. And then we're like, why do we do that?
Why we
Why
do
don't one of
that
us just go sleep in the other room and like take turns? Why do we both just go through extreme sleep deprivation? This is so dumb.
in it
But
together,
we
in
are
it to
who we
win
are.
it. Okay.
Yeah, we
Well,
really like love each other and we're gonna die together here.
oh my god. Okay,
Uh,
so this is kind of related in some ways to what we're going to chat about today. And this was actually a topic that was brought to our attention by one of our listeners and one of our super fans, Marianne Bayer, out of who is a Compass agent who's been listening, I think,
mhm.
the whole time or from the beginning.
Love those.
Shout
Thank you.
out. She's such a sweetheart. And she covers Westchester County out of New York and Utah?
Park City, Utah. Yeah.
Park City, Utah. So
Dual
shout out to
licensed.
Marianne.
Shout out Mary Ann.
Okay, so what did she bring to us? What did she think we should chat about?
Kin keeping. So if you've
Kin
not
keeping.
heard,
I hadn't heard
yes,
about this.
buzzword. The labor involved in maintaining and enhancing family ties, including organizing social occasions, remembering birthdays, sending gifts, etc. In many households, women are responsible for the domestic labor, including housework, care, childcare, and kin keeping. So we're gonna when Colleen was first like reading when I sent over about this, she's like, "Ugh, this just feels like more of the mental load. This is we already did the mental load topic. And I was like, no, this is a very
Very
specific
specific.
arm of mental load, which is keeping in touch specifically with your husband or your partner side of the family.
Well, yeah, it talks about kin keeping. So like keeping in touch with family and like all the family things that are related with this. And I think it's both spousal family and your family. I
Right,
think it's
right.
both. So
But my side of the family is natural. I've been keeping in touch with them since I was born. It just comes very natural to keep in touch with my side of the family.
yeah, and I will say that is not always the case, to be
That's
honest.
true. Yeah,
Sometimes it's
that's
a lot
true.
harder to keep, like in every relationship, there's different dynamics. In some facets of my family, it's harder for me to keep in touch with people in my family, my side of the family, than my husband's, and vice versa. I think it's very
Mhm.
selective. So, okay, so it is the action. What is it? The action or
The mental load. I mean, it's
mental
the
load of,
cognitive load and the action of, like, having to maintain those relationships, having to calendar the birthdays, send the gifts, maintain the relationships, the friendships, plan the events, all of those things.
yeah.
So,
It's the
like,
for instance of like, did you call your mother on Mother's Day? Did
did you
you
send flowers? Did you send a card? Are we doing something for your mom's birthday this year?
yeah.
Did you know,
Did you
do
call
I
your
do I need
brother?
to have
Have
the
you got,
girls draw a card? Mhm.
yeah,
All the
all
things.
of
Like, what are
that.
we getting your mom for Christmas?
Oh my god.
Um,
Okay.
did you have a plan for that? Did I need to make a plan for that? And then eventually, I think in a lot of families, like, maybe spouse just takes it over, like, "I'll just get your mom something." Mm,
And in the
mhm,
article that was sent to us, and even in these definitions, what we're seeing is traditionally this is the woman's role, right? Which is
mhm,
not always the case. We will give that as just a little asterisk, but predominantly this is the woman's role in
mhm,
a man woman relationship. So
mhm. What's your
it's
experience, Colleen?
dude.
How's your family dynamic?
Like
First
this.
of all, do your in-laws listen?
I don't think so.
Is this a safe place to talk?
I don't think, to be honest, I don't think any of my family listens. So fair,
Great, let it rip.
fair
Let's go.
game for
This will be
anybody.
the one episode they tune into.
Yeah, they're like, I'm gonna listen to this one. I don't
This
know.
table divided.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for the longest time. So both David and I come from large families. His is much larger than mine. He is one of 4 siblings, but his mom is one of 7 siblings. So he has 25 first cousins. And
Ooh.
they're all very close. And they used to all live in the same, like in a very close proximity. Like they all lived in Burbank, California or adjacent. So like Christmases when we first started dating. So remember that Davina and I started dating in high school. So I was 17 years old. And then we broke up and then got back together. So I've known this family more than half of my life. But like Christmases used to be 85 people in like a tiny house, and then his grandpa's birthday was the day after Christmas, and that was even bigger. Anyway, so there was always lots of remembering. And there were definitely times when we would go to family parties and like he wouldn't know the names of like some of his second cousins or third, and I'd be like, "No, no, no, that's blah 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 or that's this." And I knew all the info. But yeah, and we used to do, presents for everybody. And this was very much, I somehow defaulted to this role. I don't know. I don't even know why, other than like I thought that that's what I was supposed to be doing. And it's just something that I think about. But yeah, I mean, it's
Social
still even,
norms.
it's social
You
norms
slid right in.
slid right in. And then on my side of the family, both of my parents are each the oldest of 5. I have 2 sisters. I have one half sister that we didn't know about until 2012. So families are interesting.
That's another
She's
episode.
Yeah, she's older. So Cindy, and we all have C names. It's Cindy, Chrissy, and Colleen. How weird is that? But anyway, so I grew up with one sister, so we're not as big, right? But I do have all these cousins. But yeah, I mean, I think it also comes down to all the extended family stuff and call your mom on Mother's Day and what are we doing for this niece's graduation or that nephew's graduation or, you know, grandparents day, like even at school, like when we have grandparents day, I'm like, do you want, like, are your parents coming for grandparents day? Like, are we organizing that? Like, what's happening? It's a lot, man. And I have started more recently, I think, just out of sheer annoyance and exhaustion, just to kind of put his family stuff on him. And I feel bad about that sometimes. But I'm also like, I can't keep telling you to call your brother. Like I can't have the relationship that for you, you know? So I don't know. It's just, I think I fall right into that very stereotypical role of like, also like, what are we doing for Christmas? What are we getting everybody? Should I order this thing for your whatever? It's a lot. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
Okay, so my spouse's family, I initially fell into the role of kin keeping with his family as well.
Mhm.
But my relationship with my mother-in-law is somewhat strained.
Mm,
Not like not in a social setting would anybody ever assume that,
sure.
but it is strained. And
And she
she
doesn't
knows
listen
it,
to the
I know it,
show.
and he knows it. And so over time the communication back and forth has dwindled and I have put that more and more back on him,
Mhm.
but then there becomes a like there's upset because every year we will be traveling with my sisters and my mom and dad will be doing a trip, and
Yeah.
then there's jealousy that it's not happening on the other side, and that's not my responsibility to plan that. I'm doing that on this side, I'm not doing that on that side, that's not mine.
Let's make a
But one
note to
thing that
come
I've noticed,
back to the jealousy fairness
yeah.
situation. I'm going to
Hmm.
make a note about that. Go
Hmm.
ahead.
Yeah. And then what I've noticed happening now that he has taken over like the communication about events and stuff with his mom is I don't get looped in because he doesn't remember to communicate, and that's his it's his fault, it's his problem, but I'm like, okay, well, what's going on? Like, even with this service that's coming up for his
Mm,
uncle, my mom is going to go on my behalf. Number one, to support, to stand in for me, because I'm very sad that I'm not going to be there. So it makes me feel better that she'll be there. Like, it helps my heart. And then also to support my girls
yeah.
and to like physically be there to help with my children.
Yeah.
And because they will be there, and he's a pallbearer and he has other things to worry about. And so I'm like, okay, well, what time's the service?
Yeah.
Like,
How do we
what time does
coordinate?
my mom need to be there? Like, what times my mom need to be there to leave the house? She wants to be there to help get the girls ready. Like, can somebody tell me something, please? Like, this is crazy,
Yeah.
you guys. Like, please, somebody communicate something to me. And then he has his interesting family dynamic, but his dad's not in the picture, but we're very close with his dad's side of the family.
Hmm.
And they often forget to include us. Not I mean, they
Oh.
want to include us. It's not that they forget completely, they just tell us at the last minute. And I
Oh my God.
generally am included in those text messages, but it's like the night before they're like, "Oh, the birthday dinner's tomorrow." And it's not like intentional, it's just like everybody else lives in the same house.
Oh yeah.
And then they're like, "Oh yeah, text Cheryl and Alex. They live here too, just not in the same house with us." So
Yeah.
I do get included in those messages, so it's just kind of last minute. It's just an interesting dynamic that's so different from my family. And it, even when we are invited to like a holiday, it's like down to the wire, and I'm like, "Oh, what time
Yeah.
should we be there? What's the
Yes.
plan?"
Uh,
Like, hi.
well, and I think this is an interesting thing to talk about is like how as so I yeah, so how as a family who has relationships with each side, each in-law side, right? Like how do we plan these events when you're a participant in each event, like on either side? Like the for instance is for us was Christmas. Like when the kids were little, Christmas was awful for us because it would be like, okay, we're going to get up and we want to do Christmas. Like we want to open presents at our house because Santa comes to our house. But my mom
Right.
was insistent that she would come and she wanted to be there when the kids opened the presents at our house. And so I would be like, I don't know what time they're going to come, mom. So she would just come to our house at like 5 in the morning. And I'm like, oh my God. And then we would open the presents. And then we would go to her house. I don't know why. And then do a breakfast at her house because that's what she wanted. And then we would have to go do a brunch at David's parents' house. And then we would have to come back and do like an early dinner with my mom. And then we would go to David's grandpa's house. Like, and we were
No
just
wonder you
traveling.
moved a flight away.
Honestly, I mean, it did. There was part of it, right? It was just like, and if we didn't do all of those things, somebody was always upset. And it was the equality of sharing time was something that I had to like talk about. Kin keeping was talking about like I had to keep like an hour table, like a table of like how much time did we spend over here, how much time did we spend over here, and every time we would do something with one side of the family, the other side of the family would be like, oh well, you're over there with the Hungerfords again, oh weren't you, and I'm just like, I can't do it, man. Like, so then I was like, bye,
Mhm.
I'm out.
Yeah.
Move away, have my own holidays. And I think that's a whole other conversation is like reestablishing yourself as a family unit when you're part of a big family. But this trying to keep track and trying to keep relations, it was like I felt like I was like part of the United Nations, like trying to keep like good relations between all parties. It was just so many.
Like the
Like,
fairness.
yes. Listen, I've got so many weddings coming up this year. Both David's younger brother and younger sister are getting married. And then my cousin's getting married. And then one of his cousins is getting married. And one of my aunts on my mom's side was like, "Hey, are you coming to the wedding?" And I was like, "Well, I don't think so because we've got David's siblings, which I feel like in the hierarchy of life is like a more important wedding, right?
Right.
Sibling
Right.
versus cousin, like that's how it goes. We've got these two weddings, we have to travel to them, and traveling with 5 people is a lot, you know?
Not cheap.
It's
and
not
not
cheap. It's time off
yeah.
work. It's like all this. And, she was like, "I understand," but she also and I love her so much, but it was a little bit like, "Yeah, I mean, we canceled part of our 50th anniversary wedding trip to go to this wedding because we wanted to see everybody, and we haven't seen you guys since the last cousin wedding." And I was just like, "Oh my god, I'm trying." Like, I can't. And it's not that I don't
Well,
wanna see them,
right.
but
Just
it can't do it all, and you can't keep track of it all, and it can't keep score all the time.
mm.
That's anyway.
In this phase with 3 young children, you still have young children, truly.
Yeah.
Like, they have events, they have things, they have it's just too much. It is too much.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see some of the other points around this
Oh,
kin
yeah.
keeping that we were gonna touch on. Oh, impact on mental health. Well, I'm tired.
Yeah, I mean,
That's the impact.
the cultural variations thing is interesting, and it's a little bit different than what I was thinking when I first read this, but the thing that I was thinking is, like, also trying to, like, maintain cultural traditions, and then just, like, familial traditions is, I
Mhm.
think, a challenge to balance those things within the familial relationships, and then also create and establish your own traditions. That's something that we really have struggled with, I think, and feel like I failed at, because there was all my husband's family had all these traditions and all these things that they did, all the different, like, and they're lovely, but I just, like, I can't remember when St. Nicholas Day is and put oranges in their shoes. And I can't remember that to a lot of this revolves around Christmas. I don't know why, but, like, to go outside and do the flashlight and ring the bell to see if Santa's going to fly by, and, like, all these traditions that they did and they wanted to keep, but then they also wanted us to do them with them versus us, like, reestablishing those traditions in our own home. I, I don't know. And I feel a lot of responsibility to, like, keep cultural traditions. I don't know if that's, like, big for you, but because my family, my mom's side is Greek and Italian, and they're very proud of that. And that's, like, a big part of our growing up was food and holidays and like, that part of the culture. And then David's family is Mexican and Italian, and then that's a whole other thing. So, like, how do we?
Oh,
It just
I have
depends on how
a
do we do it all. Like, how do I?
I have a different perspective on this because my beloved mother-in-law does bring a lot of traditions into my house, without asking me. They just
Mhm.
arrive.
My God.
Like, even, like, she'll bring an Easter basket on Easter, for instance, like, when I've done an Easter basket for
Yeah.
Easter,
Oh
or
my
she'll,
gosh.
like, just, like, take over the holiday and, like, just do it on my behalf,
Yeah.
which I find very offensive
Yeah.
and, like, overstepping.
Yeah.
And there's no communication. This is one of the reasons we have an issue, is because it's like, well, talk to me and see if I'm okay. Like, I'm the mom.
Yeah.
These are my jobs, like, with my children. These are
Yep.
my jobs.
Yep.
You are the grandparent. There's an, like, auxiliary job for you. There's
Yeah.
something for you to do, there's a role for you, but, like, the primary role belongs to me. And, like, discuss with me what I'm doing and then find your space around that, please. But that's never discussed. And I do find it really offensive and irritating that it happens time and time again.
I think, honestly, grandparents, not all of them. My dad's parents were phenomenal, and they were very respectful of my parent. I think, I don't know. I was a kid. Maybe they weren't, but it seemed as they were. But I find that it's really hard, especially when your kids are little or younger. All of our kids, the six of our kids together, are 10 and under, right? So they're still young. It's really seems to be a challenge for grandparents, particularly grandmothers, to take the step back, to take the role as grandmother versus mother. Like, I'm noticing that as a common theme amongst friends, right? Is that because everything you're saying I've experienced. I'm like, why are you buying them the biggest Christmas present? Or why are you trying to buy the, like, I don't want you to buy that for them because I want to buy that for them for, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or like, why are you
Mhm.
doing that? That's something that I would like to do because they can't it's like they can't understand that the role of grandparent is different than parent. Like there is a
Mhm.
and I just like it's infuriating sometimes
It is.
because it's
It
so
is.
insulting. And I don't know that they realize it. Like I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that I don't know that they always realize what they're doing. I think for the most part it's good intentioned. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's not good intention.
I do think it's with good intention. They want to be a shining star for the kiddos, which of
Mhm.
course I understand that, but like I think as a mom, and I've had to explain this to Alex because Alex always gets to give the present that I picked out and bought and wrapped and like spent all the mental load on.
Yeah.
And then he gets to be the fucking hero. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, my job as a mom is really, it's a dirty job. Like, I'm the punisher. I'm the like nagger. I'm the
Mhm.
one teaching all the lessons. And I'm the one like getting them everywhere and having to buckle them in their car seat and fighting that battle with them every day. Like, all day long, like my job is to like do all the things with them, which is like annoying. It's not the fun part. Like I don't wrestle with them. I'm not playing with them. I'm
Yeah.
nurturing and nagging and teaching them all day. And then you get to come in and be the hero with the gift that I fucking thought up and bought and like did all the work for.
Yeah.
So he's heard me and he doesn't do that anymore. He's like, he'll like wait and let me give it or like hand it to me to get, or, like he's like letting
Yeah.
me be the star now with the presents because I'm like, it's just not fair. Like, I don't mean to be a baby about this, but like, it's just not fair. I want to be the star sometimes. Like I do all this,
Yes.
I do the grunt work. Let me take the star role here with them.
Yeah. I mean, I agree.
I think grandmas need that conversation too. Like I like and actually this year, Easter Bunny didn't bring their baskets this year. Mom brought their baskets because I'm not giving the Easter Bunny the
Mm.
fucking she doesn't get it either anymore. Like I'm the one that thought of what you wanted. Like Easter Bunny hid your eggs. Mom got you the basket.
Yeah.
Mom got you the presents. Like I'm just not like I'm doing all this fucking work.
Yeah,
I'm
and
gonna take some
that's
credit. Maybe I'm a narcissist, but
it's
I'm sorry.
I don't think so. A narcissist would never say, "I think I'm a narcissist." But that is a really interesting point when it comes down to, like, holidays and, like, if you are, you do the Santa thing or you do the Easter Bunny thing or you do whatever, right? Where it's like somebody else bring you. My kids are so interesting because they still believe, and my middle son, who is, like, more financially conscious, like, he's really into money and he likes it. He's like, "Well, mom, it's okay." And not like I put a lot of money pressure on him at all, but, like, he's smart. He's like, "I'll just ask for the really expensive thing for Christmas because Santa gets it, so you don't have to get it." And I'm like like, it's so sweet, but also I'm like, "Oh my god, fuck Santa." Like
Well, in our house, Santa doesn't get them the big gift. And I don't know if you've heard this go around, but there's a couple reasons. One, again, I'm not giving Santa all the credit. Santa's going to get them like small, like maybe each a small little thing and then one big thing together. But then also because I want the credit. And second, because there's kids at school that Santa can't get the big thing for.
yeah.
So if they go to school and they're
Oh.
like, Santa got me this like iPad,
Yeah.
and poor kid at school is like, "Oh, Santa got me socks," or nothing,
Yeah,
then,
nothing.
like, that discrepancy of, finances becomes really, really apparent and sad,
Yeah.
and
Oh.
a few years back, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, Santa's not getting the big expensive gift for my kids
That's good to start
because
that
of
now,
that."
right? Because I'm too deep. I'm too deep in this now. Like,
Mm,
Santa,
yeah.
10, 8 and 10, like, but the other thing that's interesting is I've heard this, like, shout out to the Jewish kids or to the kids that are not Christian for, like, helping keep this helping keep the secrets because they come back to school and they're like, "Yeah, man, cool. What'd Santa get you?" You know? And they're
That
like,
is yeah.
"Okay." I had to be as quiet there because my children started to walk by the door, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna ruin the
The
surprise." But yeah, I mean, I think it is like just all of this. It goes back to the mental load, which is very similar, but this is like such a specific portion of it. And I think was the article, it was in the New York Times. Was that where the article was
Yeah.
that she sent us?
Mhm.
Yeah. And I'm like, it's so interesting now that they're like naming these things because it's all stuff that we just like have
Accepted for years,
years.
generations, generations,
Yeah.
generations.
Yeah. Uh,
Okay, I had a point on this that I realized as I was getting ready for this. So I did 23andMe, and
oh,
on 23andMe, you can build your family tree. So it gives you like relatives that have also done 23andMe, and then you can
hmm.
like connect your family tree and like figure out which side they're on. So then you're like, so I have like a distant second cousin once removed or whatever. And then I'm like, okay, now I can place my grandparent here. And then it's like, do you know which grandparent belongs here? You can figure it out by linking like which relatives, do you know which relatives these people belong to? And so last night I'm like, it was too late to text my mom. She's in Michigan, so she's in Colleen's time zone. And so I'm texting my dad. I'm like, isn't this last name your side of the family? And he's like, yeah, I think so. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then I'm like, what about this? And I'm asking all these questions. And I'm like, where was mom born? And he's like, she was born on a farm in Marine City. And I was like, oh, really? Nana had mom at home? And he's like, nah, I don't remember. And I'm like, of course you don't remember. And then this morning, my mom is like available to text, and I'm like texting to confirm everything. And she's like, no. And like I had my whole family tree backwards because
Oh
dad
my
got it all
God.
wrong. And I'm like, just such an example of kin keeping. Like, and we have no one reliable on his side of the family. Like everybody's gone on his side of the
Ah,
family. So like
yeah.
to build the family on that side will be difficult.
Yeah.
I will have to rely completely on my mom for what she remembers, which like there again, the load of like she's responsible for keeping that side of the family tree alive.
Yeah. That's insane. Like, how
Even
is,
her side of the family.
but how would she even know that? How would she even know
I
that?
know. Just 40 years of marriage.
Yeah. My, not that this has to do with kin keeping, but my grandpa was super into genealogy. And like he had, I think that was like a hobby of his. So he had really kept track of all of those things. So that was like a different perspective, right? Because it was something that he was interested in as like a hobby. He was like keeping track of this stuff versus like if it was just up to him to just know stuff. I don't know that he would, he would. But listen, that I got to do the 23andMe because I have one of my mom's cousins is like also super into genealogy, and she like has all of my maternal grandmother, that's how they're related, side, like all mapped out, like all the way back to like she found cousins that are still in Italy, like that are like down our line. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about at all, but I find it very interesting. It's
Well, it
like,
is interesting. And I thought my dad was right because this last name, I was like, oh, I do remember meeting cousins at a wedding when I was young with this last name. And I'm like, oh, and then because you can see then where people were born and like where their maternal grandparents and
mm,
paternal grandparents were born. And they were born in Rochester, New York, which is where my grandpa on my dad's side, my dad's dad was born in Rochester, New York. And I was like, oh, yeah, this tracks. Like that is dad's side of the family. And it wasn't.
well, and
I'm
this
like,
is
how
like,
interesting. Well, then I wonder if they're related on both sides potentially. Like, wouldn't that be interesting if like the family tree intersected twice, like in two different
well,
spots?
and think about the fact that like if we go back to this idea of kin keeping, trying to circle it back here, but like it was the woman's responsibility to keep track of these things and pass these things down either orally or like through some sort of map. Like, how accurate is any of this stuff that we know, like relationships and history and like I think about my grandmother who was a Navy wife who had 5 kids essentially by herself because my grandpa was a naval commander, like during World War II and during the Korean War, like all this stuff, like all the things that she was responsible for. Granted, different times, she didn't have a out of the home job, right? But she still had like, I don't know, 5 kids in 10 years. Like, yeesh. Like,
Mm.
that's, I think, less, honestly. And all the things that she had to be responsible for. And she was like tough as nails, but that's just how she had to be. And she was a tough, tough lady. But to think about that and all those pressures, but now to think about me like 2 generations, like I now have to be responsible for all of those things. I have 3 kids, not 5, but I also have to slash and choose to work outside of the home. And I also have to be like gentle and loving. And, I'm not chasing my kids around with the like electrical cord when they're like not behaving, and like all that additional like mental load and responsibilities that we're having to. And again, now my husband wasn't out in active war. So like that's a mental load that I don't ever have to deal with. Right. But it's just interesting how those loads and those relationships change, but also stay so similar as they like come down the line. I,
Mhm.
I don't know, man. I think you and I have
My
done a fairly good job, like trying to not push, try to share some of the
I'm pushing.
responsibilities, push
I'm
to our spouses. But it is the fact but we have to be vocal about that, right? And we've
Mhm.
talked about this before in our mental load episode that, like, thank goodness we have spouses that are willing to hear us out and listen. And
Mhm.
even though maybe that's not how they were initially responding or conditioned to take on these additional tasks, but I can't imagine like having a spouse who is like, nah, like that's not, like, no, I'm not doing that. Like that would be immensely challenging.
I see it in Facebook groups more than I see it in my social circle. Like I'll see in the mom groups people venting about their spouse, and I'm like, oh, I'm so sad for you.
I just feel so sad. And it's just so, yeah, it's so sad. And it's very easy just for somebody on the outside to be like, well, just don't be in that relationship. But like once you're
Oh
so
no.
intertwined and you've got kids and financial, like that's just like, and emotion, I
Right.
just, I don't know, man. I feel very lucky. I feel very lucky sometimes, even though it's fucking hard.
There is no perfect relationship.
No.
Period. End of story. And thank goodness, there's that whole thing. Like if you took everybody's problems and put them out on the table, you'd probably grab your own back.
Mm, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I, I'd always grab my own back.
Yeah.
I love my problem most of the
Yeah.
time.
I mean, like, if our biggest problem is that, like, you know, we're the ones buying the Christmas gifts, like, honestly, it's not that bad.
You know what I do now? I wait till after Christmas and then I see what was good that people got people, and then I buy Christmas gifts and just give them late.
I love it. I love that.
I don't subscribe to just buying a gift because there's an occasion. Like, I'll buy you a gift when it makes sense to buy you a gift.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. We started doing like once. So David, I told you, I was one of 4, right? And so we started doing this like siblings Secret Santa thing, right? Because now there's 8 of us, like either,
Yeah, too much,
like,
too
and then
expensive.
we get gifts for the kids, like the nieces and nephews and stuff. But like we were having to be like, what are we gonna get Tomas and Chanel? What are we gonna get Miguel and Joelle? What are we gonna get Alicia and Matt? Like, and try, and it also becomes like a waste of money because you're getting
Yes.
them gifts that they probably aren't going to like or use because your budget isn't really what you would, or you're spending way too much money on gifts. Anyway, so we started doing like a Secret Santa thing, which ended up being a lot more fun, where we would just pick a name from the siblings and get that one person, and then we have like a budget, and that became like a manageable thing, and it also became like kind of fun, like David now he's very good, and I kind of pushed this over to him because I couldn't do it anymore. He makes, and you would love this, Cheryl, he makes a whole Christmas spreadsheet, like a whole
Oh,
spreadsheet
keep
of
talking.
the Christmas gifts.
Do it in a sexy voice. Keep going.
And so he'll like keep track of everything. And I'm like, love that for you. Thank you for doing that. Because I think he did that one because I was just like buying, just almost like panic buying, like we got to get more, we got to do this, we got to do this. And he'd be like, well, what did you get? I'm like, I don't know. I just got all these things and I don't know where they are.
Oh,
And
where my hiding spots are.
and did we get it? Like I want to make sure that nobody feels like, oh, you got this person more, or you got this, like with between the three kids. That's also a game of like balance, right? Like this past year we got the boys. Now listen, this is rich people shit I'm talking about. These are not problems. And this is going to sound so privileged. Okay. So just bear with me here.
It's a champagne problem coming, ladies. Brace
This is
yourself.
not
Ladies report.
this is so, it's like embarrassing, but also I worked really hard to get here. So like kiss my butt. We got the boys these ATVs, right? And we got them each an ATV. And then we got Vivian an Apple Watch, right? And like monetarily, the Apple Watch was more than the ATVs, right? But the ATVs are big, so they create more of a visual impact. I talk a lot about this during Christmas as far as like visual impact when they come down the stairs.
Mhm.
And so it's like, how do we balance? And listen, I'm so extra, but I really want to make sure that my kids feel special and feel loved and feel, like have a great experience. But I'm also like, we got to make sure when they come downstairs and like see the tree that like it looks equal. Does that make sense? Like, yeah, I know. I realize this is so awful when I say it, and it's really not a thing, but I'm very conscious of
It's
this.
not.
But I never want someone to be like, well, disappointed at Christmas and be like, but then I'm also like, how do I not make asshole kids where they like are just like Veruca Salt, like give it to me now, like
Because I'm erring on the other side, Colleen. I'm like, I'm embarrassed we need less presents around the tree. Because when I grew up, we had like obnoxious amount of presents around the tree because we were bought for by my parents, by my grandparents, by my
mhm.
aunts and uncles, and then by my uncle who is the one that's in Michigan, and he didn't have any kids, so we were like spoiled rotten. And then my grandpa, like we were spoiled by many people,
Yeah.
spoiled. And it was embarrassing. Like when we were young, it was amazing to see like this, like our entire living room full of presents
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Christmas morning.
Yeah.
It was so cool. And then as we got older, I was like, oh, this is like a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Almost obnoxious a lot. And I would hear at school, like there was for a while where we each got $1,000, me and my sisters, like $1,000 cash each
Oh
Christmas
my God.
from
That
my
is a
grandpa.
lot.
I know. And then all the other presents. And I mean, it was delightful
Yeah.
and so sweet and so nice. It was really
Can
great.
I be like,
It
how
was
do I
like,
get to be
I
one
know
of those?
it was really fantastic, but it was like it started to become clear, like, oh, not everyone gets this,
Yeah.
and then it started to feel different. And then now, as a parent, I'm like, it's like this very interesting balance of like enough but not too much
Well,
that I'm trying to walk the line on.
isn't that interesting? And it's so interesting to think about how your experiences form what you do for your kids, right? Like my mom always did the most she could, and my grandparents, my dad's parents were really really good at filling in, for the lack of a better term, in that sense for her. And my grandmother loved Christmas. She loved a big Christmas, and it wasn't a thing for my mom and her family. And I wouldn't say that our Christmases were bad, but I came from a situation. I came growing up, like not having. My mom gave us the most that she could, right, and probably gave us more than she could, and in a financially irresponsible way, you know. And so when you don't grow up with a lot, or you grow up feeling like financially stressed, and then you have the means to do it for your kids, it's like it's an overcompensation, and it's 100% about me, not them, right? And I see that now so much in everything that I do for my kids, and I don't think it's bad, but it's very apparent, like I had the meltdown in the car the other day. I think I told you this, where like the kids got in the car, and I was like, I pick them up from school, and I work so hard to pick them up to have a job that allows me to pick them up from school. And they were like, I was like, "Oh, how was your field trip? How was your thing?" And blah, blah, blah. And they were like, "It's fine. We don't want to talk about it." And I was like, ugh. And I was having a hard day and I think I was tired and whatever. And I was like, listen, I work really hard to pick you up from school every day. And Nana never picked me up from school. Like I kind of unleashed on them. And I was like, I was the kid that got dropped off at 7 in the morning and picked up at 7 at night. And all I ever wanted was for my mom to pick me up from school. And they were like, they don't know. But I changed my life so that I could be that type of parent for them. And because that's important to me, but they don't know any different. Right. And then I apologized later. I was like, sorry, none of that is your fault. None of that is your responsibility. That was on me. I was like, but I am really interested in what you're doing and I'm really interested in you. And so I'd like to understand. But this whole all of this comes down and it relates back to kin keeping, right? Because it's also like trying to keep up with all the things that you wish you had as a kid and all the things you feel responsible to maintain as a parent. I mean, this parenting thing is just so hard, so layered and like
It's
so
really
much. But
hard.
to hear from you, like you had so much during that now you feel like, okay, well, I want my kids to not to have less, but to like it can be scaled
Get
back and
balance.
that's okay.
Yeah.
And that the balance is
Yeah.
okay. And that's so derived from how, individually we were raised and how we grow
Mhm.
up. But
Well, I
regardless,
also feel no pressure to pick my kids up from school. My mom did it every day.
yeah, isn't that interesting? And it isn't that so
Yeah.
interesting? It's so
I mean, I do
important
it
to me.
sometimes, and I like to do it when I
Yeah.
can, but I don't put any pressure on myself. I'm totally fine with the au pair doing it, friends doing it, like, I'll
Yeah.
get you. I'm certainly not working until, like, I'm there by 4,
Yeah.
but, um,
But
yeah,
it's
I
a
feel no pressure.
yeah, and it's a big deal for me. Like it's a really big deal for me to make sure that I am there. David now picks them up 2 days a week, Monday and Friday, and I pick them up Tuesday. But it's really important to me that they get picked up. And there are days where they have to go to the aftercare a couple times, But because I didn't have that and I always wanted that, like it made me feel like you know, un like I didn't matter, right? Like and it wasn't, right? My mom was a single mom. She ran her own business. Listen, I get it now from an adult perspective, but the feelings and the emotional impact that had on me was big. So I never wanted my kids to feel that way. And they never will. And they'll be like when they have kids and they'll be like, whatever, like somebody else can pick them up. Who cares? But I think it all goes back to like, how are we as women, as entrepreneurs, as people, as parents, like being intentional about what we're doing and how we're doing it and how it affects this next generation of people that we're raising and like how are we going to change this situation so that Vivian and your girls don't feel this responsibility to keep up their spouse's family relations or like how do we making sure that they communicate with their spouses so that this is a more shared if they want to get married, maybe they don't want to get married, but a more shared experience, particularly for our
Yeah.
daughters.
Yeah. I mean, daddy's a whole person. Daddy has his own relationships.
Mhm.
That's daddy's mom. Daddy can, and I'm very clear, like when the girls want to call Gigi, I'm like, oh yeah, you guys can call Gigi when daddy gets home.
Yeah.
Like, or go do it on the iPad.
Yeah.
I just don't, I don't
Yeah. Yeah.
want to
Yes.
call
Yes.
Mimi. Mommy wants to talk to Mimi. I'm happy to call Mimi. And sometimes, like, if we have something to tell Gigi, like, I still communicate with her. You guys, I'm not a monster. I still send her pictures when the girls draw her picture or something. Like, I'm still sending those things. I am not a monster. But I don't want
You're
to
not a
call.
monster.
I don't, I don't want to hand my phone over for 30 minutes to listen to that conversation. Like,
Well,
go get the iPad, or wait till your dad gets home
and
because
I have to end
I
up
ain't.
facilitating that conversation. I don't know if my kids are not good at talking on the phone or FaceTiming. Like they'll want to do the calls, but then, they're just sitting there and I'm like, why don't you ask Nana or Nana how their day was? Like, why don't you talk to them? Like, and I'm like, I can't, I don't want to
They
be a part of this conversation. You wanted to
Yeah, this
call.
is not how I'm spending the next 30 minutes of my day. I don't have fucking time for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mommy
And
needs to send 17 emails and like
yeah.
do
In
so
this
many
30
things
minutes, I have so
in
much
this
to
minute.
do. I guess, and the other thing I want to add to that, because I specifically talked about our daughters, but I have 2 boys, and I think it is a huge responsibility of mine to make sure that my boys are raised in a way that they will not do this to their partners, and that they will, and if they end up doing it, that they'll be the type of humans that will be responsive to correction and communication. And like, I think that that's really, really important that we teach it to our daughters, but that we also teach it to our sons, because holy crap, I like, if my guys end up being douchebags, I'm just gonna be so mad at them. Like, I'm just
Yeah.
what the
Yeah.
hell?
I mean, there's definitely instances where I give direction to Alex. Like, say I'm going to be having a procedure. I'll be like, start a group text with my mom and my sisters and let them know, like, when I'm at a surgery, like, these are the times you should be making contact with them. This is what they're going to expect. Like,
Yeah.
get on the group text. Might want to also include my best friend because she's going to be breathing down your throat. If
Yeah.
you don't include her, she'll include you.
Yeah.
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 So like, I have to give that direction, where on the other side, like if Alex was going into surgery, like I'd just have that text going. I don't need that same direction,
Yeah. Some of that I think is also just
but
personality wise too, right?
yeah,
Like, some of that is
yeah, maybe
personality
not get
driven.
specific.
Not like, if I said to my best friend the other day, like, sometimes I just wish, David would like take control of things. And she was like, no, you don't. I was like, rude. She's like, you want to be in charge, Colleen. You've always wanted to be in charge. I was like, yeah, but I would like to be a little bit less in charge of some things. And she was like, do you? I was like,
I'd like to be in charge of making him in charge of like 3 things.
yeah, like, I would like to be in charge. Yeah, exactly. I would like to be in charge of making him in charge of these things that I don't have to think about, but I also want him to report back to me on them
And I'd like
regularly.
him to do them exactly how I would like them done, please.
Correct. But it was such a
Or I'd like to
reality
tell him
check.
one time how to do them exactly how I want them done, and then I'd like to never think about it again.
Yeah, and it was such a reality check too. She was just like, "You don't want to be married to you, Colleen. Like,
No.
you wouldn't want that." And I was like, "Oh God, wow." And it's interesting because
Uh,
she is just like David. She says it all the time. She's like, that's why we're best friends, is because, and that's why you married David, because we're the same person." I was like,
oh,
"Oh,
isn't that funny when you see your spouse and your besties? It's all the time. I notice it.
all the time." Anyway,
Mhm.
okay. Well, did we talk about kin keeping? I'm not sure. I
Yeah,
think we
I
did.
think we did. You guys, everybody, when you stop listening, please hang up and call your mother-in-law. Tell her you love her. Moral of the story: plan a vacation with your mother-in-law. Thank you for listening.
Oh my God. Or don't.
Send her a present.
Oh my
Hang up
God.
and get flowers.
You know what you should do is you should create a calendar or a spreadsheet
Mhm.
for your husband to make sure that they're on top of doing all of these things. So you do it one time and you put it on the calendar for them, and then it's their
With alerts.
responsibility.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, Susie, can we get a shared calendar
yeah,
that has alerts
yeah,
that we can just subscribe our partners to?
yeah, and like an option to like customize it for like specific birthdays, but then like just general holidays are already on there. Like, I think we've come up with something. Like, maybe we make an app or something here.
Nobody wants one more app.
I'll download any fucking app. I give you my email. I'll download an app. I don't care. Make a calendar, shareable calendar. That would be great.
Let's go. Let's do it. All right, you guys, keep doing it right. We love you.
Love you.
See
Bye
you
bye.
soon. That's a wrap. Thank you for joining us on this journey of laughter, life, and growth.
And remember, you're not alone on this path to success. We're right here with you every step of the way.
Please remember to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you found value in today's conversation, we'd be thrilled if you would leave us a review on your favorite platform. Your feedback means the world to us.
And don't forget to share this podcast with your friends, family, and anyone who could use a good laugh and some practical insight into navigating the challenges and triumphs of our minds, body, soul, and business.
Remember, we're doing this right.